Today I'm bringing back the long-awaited Diaries of a Creative, where I take a deep dive into the world of fashion with industry professionals. Today's special guest is Tiana Marcano, a fellow colleague of mine within the petite modeling space, founder of Not So Petite Movement, and entrepreneur offering expertise in fashion styling. Tiana, welcome to Diaries of a Creative. I'm so pleased to have you here today. But before I jump into this, I would like to note that Tiana has been featured in notable publications such as Vogue, Dazed Digital, Daily Front Row, and Harper's Bazaar, just to name a few. So for anyone who's also petite watching this, I mean, look at these publications, some of the largest fashion publications in the world. So petites very much deserve and have a space in this industry. Welcome, Tiana.
Hi, I'm Tiana Marcano. I am a model, actress, and fashion stylist. I pretty much started within the modeling industry at age 10, but when I officially started back in 2018, when I first signed with EMG Models, when I started fashion styling, that was back in 2021 when I finished my studies with London College of Fashion. I kind of just kickstarted my styling career right after I finished my studies. And acting sort of happened unconventionally.
You went to London College of Fashion.
It was more online because it was during the pandemic. So I
That's
wasn't
where I
physically.
go. Would you have gone if it wasn't during the pandemic?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, like I studied abroad already in France. I definitely would have went to London for a fact, yeah.
So you said that you started your career when you were 10. How exactly did you kind of get into that at such a young age?
It was really strange how it happened. It kind of just happened. I remember like after ballet class, which was in Astoria at the time, me and my mom were walking back to the train to pretty much like head home. A woman came up to my mom and pretty much was like, your daughter is really beautiful. They started a conversation and stuff. And eventually it led to her saying that she was a scouting agent with industry model talent. And she believed that I was able to do modeling work through that agency and stuff. And I know my mom took some time to decide if she wants to go through with it or not, and she ended up going through with the offer. And right after that, we pretty much started developing my portfolio. So there was a lot of test shoots going on, a lot of photo shoots to pretty much have a portfolio with them and also like have my comp card and stuff. And after I started developing my portfolio, once it was like fully done, at least like through their eyes, we went through, different castings and stuff. Everything was based in New York because I was born and raised in New York. I did book work, but the issue was that my mom didn't want me sacrificing school for modeling. So a lot of the jobs I couldn't go through with that I was booked for.
It is really tricky when you're young. I didn't do modeling when I was young, so I was 8 or 9. I was in the acting industry. So it's quite, yeah, the same kind of, realm, but it's really dedication. I was at castings every single day and I nearly didn't go on to the next grade because I was never in school. It's like a job. Like it is a job. Did you get a sense of the industry at that age, like how cutthroat it is, or did you kind of not realize because you were so young?
I would say that I didn't realize it then, to be honest. I mean, also when I was younger, I had a huge tendency of looking through stuff through rose-colored glasses. So I kind of felt like I saw more of the glamour or more of the positive side of the industry. Like I kind of had that filter or that lens on, sort of when I was a kid. And also, I was a kid, so you tend to have that more when you're a kid, honestly, as opposed to when you're older. I would say when I was a kid going through the modeling industry, I kind of saw it more as in like, oh, I'm doing these photo shoots. I'm getting all dressed up and I'm doing all these cool things, sort of say. I was definitely more in a flow state then. Like I wasn't like preemptively like, okay, we're gonna do this for this job or anything. I was more like, okay, we're just doing this to do this, if that makes sense. And that was kind of a positive note of it, where it was like kind of just being more in that flow state. But yeah, I'd definitely say I looked through it through rose-colored glasses for a fact.
I agree. I think when I was that age as well, I didn't notice what was kind of happening because I was so young. And also, I feel like it was just such a creative outlet because I loved acting. Like, that was what I thought I was going to do. Like, my dream was to be on Broadway. Modeling,
Really? Oh my God.
I didn't even think of it at the time, but I had to take my comp cards as well. And that's kind of what introduced me into modeling. I was like, oh, I like being in front of the camera as well, like this.
Yeah.
So I didn't notice how difficult the industry was at that age, but I definitely was exposed to it. I just didn't realize. I remember I was at casting and it was for parents. It was like they were casting for a family. So there was actually a dad and a daughter that were actually family being casted together. And the daughter must have said something that the casting director didn't like. And the casting director took it out on the dad, like the real life dad.
Oh, wow.
doing the actual casting. Oh my gosh, why is she acting like this to like, this is so unnecessary. So I did see that kind of side of casting directors, but yeah, I was so young, so I didn't really. And my mom was always with me. She never let me be by myself, which I think
Yeah.
is really, yeah, a great thing because obviously the industry is crazy.
My mom was mainly there with me, like, definitely for, like, castings and stuff. I think there was only, like, one time where there was one casting that I had. It was more so for, like, commercial work, actually, and also they were trying to funnel me into Disney a bit. The only time I had a casting where my mom was there in technicality, but not in the room with me, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. It was like, yeah, it was like a separate thing. Most of the time, my mom was there.
I think that's really important because, yeah, you hear all these crazy things. I also want to ask because obviously, when you're younger, there's no height requirements, right? In the
Yeah,
modeling industry, what was that
which
kind
is
of?
nice.
Yeah, exactly. Like there shouldn't be. We're both petite models, by the way, everyone. But you
Yeah.
would have heard that from the intro. What was that like going from, obviously you're modeling and then all of a sudden one day you're older now and someone's like, actually, you don't reach the height requirements. How did that make you feel?
I was very confused, honestly, like initially when that happened because I was so used to, as a kid, I kind of was just like, okay, I'm just doing this. We're, you know, in this like photo shoot or whatever, we're just doing it. Then it became more so like, oh, I can't do this. And that was a weird transition because I was so used to, I don't want to say being able to do what I wanted to, but like feeling like I had that open opportunity, if that makes sense. And when I got older, I started realizing, oh, there was a lot of limitations going on, especially like more specifically within modeling and stuff, which is why I didn't model like in high school and whatnot, because at the time, like especially then, this was back like 2011 era, 2012 era, I would say. Especially back then, they were really hyper fixated on like 5'8" and above, pretty much. Even though, of course, there was 5'6" models. Like I think Emily Rata kind of came out around that time period. I think that was right before she blew up with the Blurred Lines music video actually and stuff. But she's 5'6", so they were more lenient with having 5'6" people, but even then they still weren't really a thing in the industry at that point in time. It was mainly 5'8" and above, so pretty much you had to be like 14, 5'8" at that time, which is kind of crazy to think about because you're still developing and stuff. So it was a really weird transition, and I just kind of decided to not do modeling in high school because of that reasoning. And also because I kind of didn't know how to go about it then. And also I was preoccupied with fashion design. So I was studying fashion design. I went to a career and technical educational high school. So I was focused more on fashion design. I wanted to be more behind the scenes at that point in time, if that makes sense.
And I know that you also did acting as well. I know we spoke about it a little bit before, but how
Yeah.
did you actually get into it? That was after modeling, because you said you started with modeling when you were 10, then you kind of went into acting. How did you kind of bridge that gap? They are quite similar, they're the same kind of realm.
I feel like they also like simultaneously kind of work together too, because I feel like if you went through certain like acting like classes and stuff, or learned pretty much, I guess, refined your craft in a way, you can also funnel that into modeling, because of course modeling is ultimately telling a story too, which is very similar to acting. You're telling a story ultimately, just in different mediums. But the way I started getting into acting was, as I said before, like very unconventional. In technicality, how it all started was when I was selected for the Big Brother Big Sister program back in high school, which pretty much was to have an industry professional become your mentor. I thought originally I was gonna get like a fashion designer as a mentor because, as I said, I was studying fashion design at the time. But I ended up getting Seema Zargami, which was the then president of Nickelodeon. So she was the main reason why I kind of got more into like the entertainment industry, since I was so immersed in that world every time I went to like events and like galas, with her and stuff. And there was even at a certain point where Seema and I became close, like we were more closer with each other at some point, where we would just like bounce ideas off of each other. And some of those ideas were actually implemented in Nickelodeon, so that was kind of
That's
cool.
great.
I also like through the events and like galas and stuff, I also met like a few celebrities through those events that ignited more of my curiosity within acting, to be honest. So I started really researching into acting and kind of immersing myself more in that world, if that makes sense.
Right. That is so interesting. So that actually happened through your school.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Such a great program. Do they still have it? Do you know?
I believe they still do, to be honest, but I haven't checked in on them in a very, very long time.
A great program. I love when schools have things like this because I feel like that it's really so positive. It's such a great way to kind of shape your future, because maybe you fully want to go into acting at one point and you have the lovely contacts that you knew since you were younger that you can always reach back out to. I really like that. I wish my school had something like that.
Totally. And also it's like it's really good for especially like high schoolers and stuff because like in high school as a teenager, we're very confused, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like we don't necessarily have a direct direction of where we want to go to in life because we're also experimenting where like we're not necessarily under our parents' wing fully, but we still sort of are and stuff. So it's a very interesting time period, honestly. And I think programs like this are wonderful because it kind of gives you that experience without fully investing in it, if that makes sense at the time.
So much sense, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
think when you're that age, you feel like you should know everything. And especially looking back at it now that I've been out of high school for a good 6, 7 years now, I didn't know anything. But you think you do at that time, don't you? Because you're like, oh, I should be old enough. Like, I'm going to college now and I need to know my whole life. When in actuality, no one does. I graduated when I was 17. You don't know, you're not meant to know everything at 17. You're not meant to know what you want to do when you're 30. Like, that's something
Yeah.
that I think we really need to kind of help people kind of discover through programs like that. That's a great way to discover what you kind of like to do more. I feel like there's a lot of people when they go to college, because you think, I don't really know what I want to study. Let me just study this. And then you're like, I actually hate that, because you've not done it enough to know if you do or don't like it. So I think, yeah, programs like that are great. I want to kind of switch gears a little bit into modeling more. I know we've been speaking about it, but fully into modeling. So
Yeah.
we met last week, where we both made history together, walking for the House of Artie, who is the first petite, fully petite brand to be showcased during New York Fashion Week, which is such a big win. Kind of want to ask you, why do you think petite models are still not fully appreciated in this industry in 2025?
I feel like there's a lot of things that go into that. I would say the reason why petite models aren't fully appreciated within the industry is definitely because of industry standards. Industry standards have been there for a very, very long time. And what I mean by that is pretty much, I kind of touched upon this earlier, as a model, they prefer like taller models, 5'8" and above, especially if it's like runway work. And the reasoning behind that, at least as they say, like within the industry, is that they want more of the focus on the clothing as opposed to the individual themselves, pretty much. And that's why they prefer taller models, pretty much, because there's going to be more emphasis on the clothing as opposed to the model, which I think is an interesting perspective. But also, I feel like if they made garments that was specific to a person's body type or towards like the muse, pretty much, you wouldn't necessarily have that issue like within the industry, if that makes sense. And then it makes it more open to anyone being able to, model their clothing and stuff. It's a really good question because I'm not fully certain as to why we're not fully appreciated within the industry. This kind of reminds me of a conversation that I had with a European photographer, actually. I think it was like 2 years ago, I believe, maybe a year and a half ago, where he like I think in my bio I put like petite model or something like that. I can't remember fully what I had in my bio, but I definitely had that in there. And he was asking me, he was like, "What's a petite model? Aren't you just a model?" And it really brought me a different perspective. Like just him saying that, I kind of was like, yeah, it should just be like we're just models. It shouldn't be like, we're a curve model, we're a petite model, we're, artistic nude model, or, whatever category it may be. It should just be like we are models. We're just a
Yeah,
model, ultimately. So it was really interesting having that conversation because, I mean, it's something very little, very simple, but it just clicked into my brain where I was like, yeah, it should just be model.
yeah, it is so true. Where were they from in Europe? Do you know?
Mainly immersed in the fashion industry through Italy, pretty much, in France.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm really surprised by that, because I feel, especially in France and Paris, they
Yeah,
are so strict. There's
I
like
know.
no budging. I have a whole video on my experience at Paris Fashion Week. It was horrendous. I hated
Really?
it.
Oh my God.
So I feel like, if anything, that's so surprising. I would think like the US, maybe it's a tad more lenient. But that is so true. What a great thing for someone to say. And it just shows
Yeah.
that as forward thinkers, we just need to find them as well. Like that
Yes,
photographer,
totally.
an amazing person to kind of, because the fact that they even see it like that is amazing. We
Yeah.
are just models, but unfortunately, I do feel like we have to put that little word in front of it, petite, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
it is also such a great accomplishment, because there's not many of us, is there? There should be so many more of us. I mean, the average height worldwide is a petite height.
Yeah,
So you,
literally, yeah.
you would think that there should be more clothes that actually fit us, and we should be able to represent that on the runway, not a tall model that, do you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
just,
I mean, pretty much
um,
like we're the majority ultimately, so we should be representing the majority.
exactly. It's so funny when we have these conversations. I'm like, how does this not make sense to someone else that's like a casting
Yeah.
director? Like, where is that light bulb kind of moment where they're like, oh, this actually doesn't make sense, right? Like, I don't.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting too because like how the industry started initially, it was like in the late 1800s with I believe the designer was Charles.
Charles Frederick, I think his name is.
I think so. So when he first started his designs, started in France and stuff. When he was using models, he was using like all different body types, all different heights. It didn't really necessarily matter then. And it was quite interesting because he actually said that he wanted to utilize models of different body types and heights and stuff to actually, appeal to the masses pretty much, to appeal to the everyday people because that's ultimately what he was selling to. And I was like, yeah, 'cause ultimately, you are selling to everyone, you are selling to the masses. So why not have models that represent the masses pretty much?
Exactly. And the funniest thing about Charles is that I'm saying it like I know him. I'm like, Charles. He was the founder of haute couture, which is ultimately like the highest, it's high fashion. That's exactly what it means.
Yep,
And when you think high fashion, you absolutely do not picture a petite model, which is
yep,
so sad because this is what this founder had in mind. I think we should kind of, not we, because we already are thinking like this, but casting directors, designers, photographers, they really need to take a step back and really look at kind of what the industry has become
yeah.
over the years and see how it's so impactful as well to not see someone that looks like you being showcased. It is impactful.
Yeah,
And
of course, yeah.
I think, yeah, it really needs to change. I do want to go into some of your old interviews that I was looking through because you mentioned some really interesting points. So I kind of throughout these interviews, obviously this is to get to know you, and also maybe our words will resonate with someone else and will help them as well. So something really interesting that you said was awareness, discernment, and will were the three qualities that were the most impactful in your journey. I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into that to see how
Yep.
these traits have impacted your career this far.
Yeah, of course. The reason why I say awareness, discernment, and will is because if you want to make change, whether that's personal change, whether that's change within the industry and stuff, awareness is always key. Because being aware of what the issue is at hand is very impactful in general because without awareness, you can't take action. You can't change what you're not aware of.
Right.
So I always say awareness as the number one thing because having that awareness is so crucial and so important in order to make that change. And also being aware of yourself too, like what's going on with yourself and how you're almost like co-creating that reality too, if that makes sense. Discernment as a second one, because discernment pretty much in regards to, I don't want to say as in who you can trust, but pretty much having the wisdom and the awareness in regards to how you can go about a certain issue or go about a certain situation and stuff, which is also another crucial thing, especially if you're doing more activist work or doing more advocate work, where you need to have that discernment in regards to, okay, like who am I appealing to right now? How should I say this message pretty much in a way that's gonna really resonate with people, how it's gonna really impact people, because that's also really important, like the way the message is conveyed or the way the message is said ultimately, because the intent behind it can be good, but the message itself, the way it's conveyed, may not necessarily get through the masses the way that you want it to be, right? So having that discernment of how to convey that is very important. And then will as the last one, because after you have that awareness and that discernment, you need that fire, that push to actually take action on, those things and stuff. So that's why I have will as the last thing. And the way that these three things impacted my career was, at least, I mean, I guess since we're on the topic of modeling, I'll go with modeling. I had the awareness of how the industry was in regards to it not being so open to, petite models or pretty much models who are below the 5'8" height ultimately. I would even go further and say below the 5'6" height, because I feel like 5'6" is already accepted now within the modeling industry. So I'd say more so under 5'6" height. So I had that awareness that, okay, I'm already at slight disadvantage within the modeling industry. So I was like, okay, how can I go about this? How can I have a career within the industry, right? And also, I became aware of some stuff within myself that was going on too, especially earlier on in my career, where, I did take things like very personal. I was very insecure when I first started, to be honest. And that insecurity has just been there for a very long period of time in my life. That insecurity also fed into like my work life, if that makes sense, where like I felt like I wasn't able to book certain jobs because I wasn't confident enough, or I wasn't or I didn't know myself enough, to be honest. Because also, like, when you have a strong sense of self-worth and a strong sense of who you are as a person, people feel that, like, in all honesty. They may not know how to articulate it or what it is specifically, but they feel it, right? And also that changes your reality too, because you're also vibrating at a certain frequency where now you're able to attract certain things into like your reality, as opposed to before. Let's say if I was in the insecurity frequency, where what I was attracting was pretty much life lessons that were showing me, okay, hey, there's this thing you need to work on. You need to shift this dynamic in order to co-create the life that you want ultimately. So that's kind of how it funneled into like my career and stuff, where I started having the awareness of, okay, these are things that I need to work on personally. These are things within the industry that I know is gonna either benefit me or put me at a disadvantage, and then learning how to work around them. That's where the discernment kind of comes in, where it's like learning how to work around that, learning how to, I guess, market myself ultimately, to casting directors, to people within the industry, and then having that fire to go through with it.
I think the will aspect and what you mentioned of taking things really personal when you were earlier on in your career, I can definitely agree with that. I think because you don't realize this kind of industry is really an industry where people, you hear no all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
not you in general, everyone, right? I've
Yeah.
heard so many times, more than yeses. So I think when you're faced with that at first, especially being really young, you're like, why are people saying no left, right, and center? Like, what am I doing? And
Yeah.
that you can take it really personally. And I took it really personally when I first started. But then I really had to kind of sit down with myself, just like you were explaining as well, and be like, how can I kind of, if this is something I really want to do, I can't keep going on like this with being really upset about, people telling me no. So I was like, how can I fix how I feel when this happens? And exactly like you said, that with that will, it's like, I want to do this, I'm going to do this. I kind of shifted my mindset, which it could come under the form of manifestation as well. If people don't believe in manifestation, I believe in manifestation. I have my crystals right here next to me as
Me
well.
too, honestly.
But if you don't believe in it, someone listening right now, it's just about a mindset change at the end of the day, which could help everyone. So if you don't yet necessarily believe in that, I think it's just helping you think more positively. And when you think positively, the negatives maybe not so much phase you anymore. So when I was getting all these no's, after I was like, okay, I need to change something because I'm not feeling good. It's not making me feel great. All of these no's. I was just saying to myself, it's just a redirection. I'm not going to take this personally because it's not about me at the end of the day. This job was not meant for me. Something
Yeah.
else that's
No,
better
exactly, yeah.
is on the horizon, and I needed that little shift to get there. So that's how I started to look at it. And then I don't take anything personally now. I'm like, nope, fine, great, next one. Like, what am I going to do now? Do you know what I mean? And it's like sometimes those no's are actually such a blessing in disguise, right?
Yes, definitely.
That's such an important thing, learning how to deal with the rejection, because in this industry you can be Bella Hadid, like, and she still gets no's. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah, yeah, no, it's true, yeah.
people don't realize everyone gets it. Don't try not to take it personally. It's easier said than done. You do have to do some
Of course.
work to kind of, yeah, to get past that stage. But I think once you do get over that bump, it will make your career and your actual self, just how you feel, working in this career, so much better. It takes so much work to get there. It's not like, it's not at all easy, and I don't think
Oh,
that
yeah.
but yeah, I think that's really important for people that are first starting out to know that it's so normal. Rejection is so normal. So
Yeah.
I think that's really important to kind of touch on. Going into the challenges a little bit more, you said something really interesting, that you saw a quote that stopped you from kind of giving up your dreams in the industry. The quote stated, "When you deny the world of your gifts, you're denying those who you're supposed to meet, assist, impact, etc." And I think this is so powerful. I never heard that before, and I thought it was such a great way to look at things. And I think I like to be really transparent with everyone about the fashion industry not being all rainbows and butterflies. Like, it's not all great. So I think when you can find ways to not give up on your dreams, finding a quote like that is so impactful. So are you able to share any kind of challenges that you faced in modeling?
When I first started modeling as an adult, I originally got signed to EMG. This was right, pretty much I came back from France because as I stated earlier, I was studying abroad in France and stuff. And initially in France, that was like my first like professional adult shoot, if that makes sense, as a model. Not like adult in regards to like I was like much older then, but just making that clarification. So like after I did a photo shoot in France and I went, you know, back home, back to New York, after that I started pretty much like sending my digitals into like agencies and stuff. I kind of got ignited to actually like really start modeling again after that. EMG got back to me. I signed with them in 2018, and I know at first the challenges that I faced was, and this was also partially, you know, my fault too, where I felt like I was pushing too much to go into a certain market when I should have just been more trusting or more open to my agent marketing for me, if that makes sense. Or, you know, like pretty much like she knew like how to market me. She knew like what market I was supposed to start in at the time. And I felt like I was a bit resistant to that and kind of going against that a bit. And I feel like that was definitely a challenge that came up in the industry. I mean, personal challenge, and also challenge in general, where if you're looking to go into a certain market, sometimes you can't necessarily go into that market right away. There's like steps that you need to do beforehand in order to, let's say, maybe potentially go into that market. Because right away when I got signed with EMG, I was pretty much like high fashion, you know, these brands only, I don't want to do commercial work, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I kind of came in with that attitude, which personally, like looking back on it, I feel like that wasn't the right attitude to come in to modeling with. Personally, like I felt like I should have been more open-minded. I should have, you know, let them handle it. That was definitely a challenge that I came across, and that did kind of cause like a bit of a discrepancy between me and my agent. So that was a bit of a challenge that I had to overcome. And then also, you know, of course, the height challenge. In general, like there was certain jobs that I wanted to book, but I knew at the time they were only booking, let's say 5'6" and above, or 5'8" and above and stuff. And that was a huge limitation, which a lot of petite models face within the industry, is the height requirement.
When you were in Paris, do you think, because obviously when you go to Paris, it's all high fashion, they're all the high fashion houses. Do you think that maybe influenced the type of modeling that you wanted to be in, or is that just something maybe you're interested in?
Being immersed in that, I definitely would say shaped it a bit more, where I was like more stubborn in my conviction of wanting to just do high fashion and wanting to just be in that realm and stuff. So I kind of had to unlearn that a bit and then relearn to be more open to different stuff.
I mean, that's not an issue if you know what you want.
True, actually true.
I think that's quite good. Like, but maybe in retrospect, you're like, okay, maybe I should have just done this, so I kind of got my foot in the door a little bit more. But I don't
Yeah,
think
no,
that's
totally, yeah.
that you know what you want. That's a really good thing. Especially in an industry where a lot of people, I feel like, say yes to everything just because they want to, like. So I think that that's quite good, that you know what you want, and you were able to voice that as well to your agent, because I feel like a lot of people don't voice things to their agent, where their agent actually doesn't know what they want because they're not being honest with what they want in their career. So I do applaud you for that. I also applaud you for seeing the flip side of it as well, of maybe I should have just done some commercial work or done some, yeah. So I think that's a great thing, actually. Another question about petite models, obviously, because that's exactly what we are. What misconceptions about petite models would you like to address to the world?
Okay, I'm trying to think about this
I
now,
know,
actually.
it's always put you on the spot. It is a big one, but I think there has to be some sort of misconception, right? There has to be
Oh
some.
yeah, of course.
Why are we still in this kind of stagnant state? I would say it's quite stagnant. Don't know if you.
Yeah, no, it is, yeah.
I would say maybe a misconception is that because of this stigma of what like the beauty standards are, I would say people just don't, that's like the last thing to kind of change within the industry, right? I feel like there's been so many kind of monumental changes that have happened in the industry. The only thing in my mind is that there's no petite models still like at the forefront, right?
Yeah.
We don't see any major modeling agencies actually, that represent petite models. And if they are,
Tend to be celebrities, honestly.
yeah.
Or if there is petite models that did start a career themselves, they're not necessarily being spoken about or really in the forefront of it. Because I know personally when I've researched into like petite models and stuff like on Google and stuff, like it took me some time to really like find those specific gems of people that like actually did start their own career. Like they didn't necessarily have the resources or have the connections and stuff when they first went into the career and kind of made a name for themselves. That it was really difficult to find that. I mean, it's there, you can research it and find it, but I think it's interesting that they're not necessarily being really spoken about, to be honest.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is that petite models actually we're still not getting the time of day. In terms of misconception, I'm struggling to find something because I think because we are actually petite models, we're like,
Yeah.
oh, we're just, I don't know, we don't get the misconception either. Like, where is that disconnect? But
Yeah.
I think from an industry perspective of people that just want to kind of follow this beauty standard, is that they just don't want to change. They've done this for how long? They just don't actually want to change. That's
Yeah, there is a bit of that. It's like what I like to call like the industry standard, where everyone just goes through with the industry standard and doesn't necessarily want to pull away from that. It's something that they're used to. It's something that's just easy to do, if that makes sense, because it's been there for a while. It's much more harder to kind of break away from that and actually have like unconventional ideas or innovative ideas and stuff, meaning pretty much being more open to like models of different heights, different sizes, etc. But I guess more so petite models because we're the only ones actually in the industry that aren't really fully being recognized right now. Curve models are being recognized. Even like curve models that aren't of the height standard too are being recognized. The only ones left, which I think I've stated this before actually, not in this interview, petite models are the only ones left.
But I think that's why we need to be extra loud about it as well, because I also don't want to be included just because people want to say, look, I'm an inclusive brand.
Yeah.
I actually want to feel like I am in this space and in this room and working for this brand because I'm genuinely wanted to be here
Yeah.
and I'm wanting to help change the narrative. I saw actually a statistics, but it was just a question by, I think, WGSN, of people that they don't feel represented in ads. Yeah. What does that do for this individual if they don't feel represented? They don't connect with it, right? There's no.
Yeah, they don't connect with it, and then it could also lead to other stuff too, where it's like, I mean, of course, like insecurity and stuff. I mean, you can't really control how a person emotionally reacts to, an advertisement or, to those things. When someone doesn't feel represented, especially like in the public eye, because ultimately, all these advertisements and stuff, it's in the public eye, right? Like everyone's watching it, everyone's looking at it and stuff. When they don't feel represented, especially when it comes to beauty standards and stuff, you start seeing a lot of people going through wanting to alter, their face, whether that's through plastic surgery or, Botox or fillers or whatever that may be, and kind of going through drastic body changes as opposed to like, really sitting there and kind of being like, okay, why do I feel this way? What's coming up for me? Let's work on that, right? So I think that's also the danger of not having models that represent the everyday individual, where it leads to, it's not like a healthy pattern. Let's say, I want to put it as that. It's not a healthy thought pattern specifically. I feel like if we were to get more models or more people that represent the everyday individual, people will feel a lot more comfortable in general, like right off the bat. It's something that's more relatable. They see themselves more in the clothing or more in the product that they're selling, to be honest, which honestly would boost up sales. People actually purchasing your product, the more open that they are to having people represent the everyday people.
Speaking of that, petite divisions, I guess, within clothing ranges, sometimes they don't even have petite models. I'm like, why do you have a petite range and you're not hiring a petite model? How does that make any sense? Make it make sense. I don't. Obviously, when that package comes, it's not going to fit the petite individual that ordered it as they saw on the website. This is how far you're going to take it, that you don't want a petite model to work with you, that you have a petite range but you don't have petite models. Yeah, that drives me absolutely crazy. Switching gears a little bit, maybe something more positive. The future petite modeling evolving.
The future, I kind of see it's almost like kind of piggybacking on like what we were discussing earlier, where it's like we're just seen as models. It's not necessarily specific divisions or specific things. It's just like, okay, she's just a model. This is her work. You know, kind of seen and being recognized as a model in general. I do kind of see that happening a bit more in the future. And of course, petite models actually having a career and having like work within the industry and stuff. I already kind of see that shift happening a bit, even current day, where there's a lot more petite models actually doing actual modeling work as opposed to like, let's say even 3 years ago or even 5 years ago. So the shift is happening. It's there. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of time. I mean, ultimately, I always say like it's not a question of if or what, it's a matter of when, to be honest.
I agree. I definitely see some more stuff happening because I started in 2017 and there was absolutely no one that I saw in 2017 that looks like me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not at all. And I think also because I started in runway, seriously, no one, even to a point where people thought I was like staff, like working at Fashion Week.
Really? Oh, wow.
No, I'm a model. Like
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
I am going to walk as well. Yeah, so definitely there's something happening, but it's a matter of like, how can we, like, there needs to be like a catalyst as well, like something, there needs to be something larger to help kind of make this change happen a little bit faster because it's like it's been too long. There
Yeah,
definitely,
no, it has been. Yeah.
think, yeah, I think we need to continue to put our voices together because there is power in numbers. And if we can,
Of course, yeah.
keep pushing that we deserve to be here as well, and there definitely is a space for us, right? So because we both have careers in this industry, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like we need more and we want to help other people kind of push into the industry as well, because my kind of goal is that I want other people to have no issue, like let's say a few years down the line, like a petite
Yeah.
individual to have no problems. They can just enter the industry. They won't even know that this whole thing happened, right?
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
my
Yeah.
goal is I want someone to just be able to have a career in the industry. And also I think something that tall models, I've faced a lot of tall models that are angry about petite models kind of entering the industry, which to me
Definitely.
I don't understand why. No one's coming after your job.
I
It's
think
about
it comes more from a limiting mindset, if that makes sense, because, and this is just an issue within the industry in general too, because there's like only so much opportunities and there's a lot of models, especially like in New York, like pretty much in the big cities. A lot of models come from a mindset of like, okay, like I'm one in a million, pretty much type of deal. Like I need to, book this job for X, Y, and Z, or I need to do this to get this job, or it's very cutthroat in a sense, especially for runway work and stuff. So I feel like they're already in that mindset, and then when they see someone like a petite model come to a casting like that, where it's like, I mean, it takes courage, honestly. Like ultimately it takes a courageous person to show up to a casting like that, knowing that they didn't ask for your height, or pretty much you're gonna get that no, or you're gonna not be as welcomed as everyone else, and to still show up and still do your walk, still present yourself in a way that you normally would. I think that also triggers a lot of the models that are like 5'8" and above and stuff, because in a way it's almost like, I feel like it kind of triggers within them, like, why couldn't I be courageous like that, or why don't I have that confidence, or whatever is coming up for them in that sense, right? And also it could just be purely just like competition based, where it's like, another model that I had to worry about now, or I had to worry about other fellow 5'8" people, now I had to worry about someone who's shorter, or whatever it may be.
now
I
the
don't know what
short
it makes
people
it
are
super
coming in
funny.
as well. Yes, we're coming. I did get chills when you were explaining that, because that is what it feels like at castings. You do feel, and this is not to shy anyone away that's petite to going to castings, like that's not at all what I want to do. You do get that sense actually that you feel like you see all these tall models and they do make you feel like you don't, like, why am I here?
Yeah, I
That's
mean, it's a
not
bit
big.
daunting,
It
honestly.
could be actually. That's really true. I think, yeah, I do see that. It is true. Like, that's so ridiculous that people can make you feel like that. I think, especially for catwalk, it comes down to skill. It really does. You can be
Yeah, of
perfect.
course, yeah.
I think that's also what people think. Like, short models are trying to say, like, but tall models aren't good enough. That's not what anyone is saying. No
Yeah.
one is thinking like that. I think that there's some amazing, really tall models, and I'm rooting
Oh,
for
of
them.
course.
But
Yeah.
that's not the point. The point is that there is models of all heights, all body shapes, all sizes, all everything that deserve to be there as well, but they don't get the time of day. So
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
point that we're trying to make, if anyone's wondering. That's the future of petite modeling. We see us completely, hopefully, being able to attend casting, feel actually welcome, which I think is important. I think feeling
Yeah.
and that no one's kind of looking down at us is really important to know.
I mean, ultimately, it's like having that equal opportunity.
Exactly. Well, I'm so excited to talk about this, the Not So Petite Movement, which is your movement. So, for anyone who's meeting Tiana for the first time, just like Height Revolution, which is an online fashion revolution that I co founded with Taylor Tux, you have your own movement called the Not So Petite Movement. So, I kind of want to discuss a little bit more about that because it's so fantastic to see more movements kind of popping up on social media because we can make such a big impact and we have. So
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit more about that.
Not So Petite Movement officially was created, I would say, officially was 2023, like literally January 2023. The reason why I started it was because, as I said, like I feel like there needs to be more movements, more like in the spotlight and stuff, and also like something that I've stated before, just personally, between me and you, it takes more than one person to really make a change. Because I know a lot of the times, like whenever it comes to movements and changes, like there's always that like one figure, right? Or like that one person that's, I guess, the face of the movement ultimately. But in technicality, it's more than just one person, more than one face. It takes more people who are doing very similar things to have like catalyze that movement. The fact that, as you said before, there's more movements coming up and stuff, it's a very good and positive sign because that means that we're kind of bringing it more into like the collective consciousness that we're done with this pretty much. We want change. We want to make that shift where petite models are actually advocated and actually are accepted into the industry and are seen as actual models. With Not So Petite Movement, I had started it with that intent in mind, was to pretty much showcase that, petite models are here. Petite models are doing work within the industry and stuff because I feel like just the industry in general, especially with modeling, you tend to feel very alone. You tend to feel like, oh, this is only happening to me, or, this is kind of going back to that personalized, like taking things too personal or personalizing it where you're kind of like, no one else is experiencing this but me, or, whatever thought that comes up to mind when, that stuff happens. And I started Not So Petite Movement to showcase like other petite models work in the industry and to kind of show that you're not alone. Like there are actual petite models doing actual work and this is the work that they're doing pretty much. And I kind of wanted to utilize it as a way to empower other petite models to really kickstart their career and really start going to like castings, let's say, that they're not really necessarily welcomed fully into, or be a part of that change. So Not So Petite Movement was created from that sense where I really wanted to empower models ultimately to have a career within this industry.
That's lovely. And I think I would love to say that I think our community of petite models, we're actually so supportive of each other. And that's something that you do not see within this industry. Generally,
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, like you said, it's very kind of you against the whole world almost, but not with this petite space that we've created. I think that it's such a community, and I think that's so beautiful. It should be like that. We should be able
Yeah.
to shout out other petite models. Like it's not competition. It's
Yeah.
not it's about we are trying to get to a common ground, like a space where we feel accepted and we're all trying to get each other there. No one's being left out. We're getting everyone. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think that's such a beautiful thing that we've created, and that's something that I actually feel within this space that's made the fashion industry so much more comforting for me. Because like when I started, there was no I didn't know any other petite models, so I think it is really comforting, and I think it's such a beautiful thing.
We'll even send each other like literal castings or like literal
That's
jobs and
great.
stuff, which I've never seen that with like any other model. Like even like model friends that I've been with, I mean I've had one or two like close model friends that do that,
Yeah.
like we do that for each other, but let's say in general, like that's not really a thing that's going on within the modeling community. And I think that's because the model collective, we've just been put into this mindset of like everyone's our, quote unquote competition, or I mean, it's a very limiting mindset, honestly.
What types of content have you found to be the most effective in kind of challenging the height standards in modeling?
So in regards to social media stuff, like stuff that's very quick and to the point has been effective. And that's just because growing up in the social media age, like the attention span has kind of decreased a bit. And also there are limitations on social media for like how long you can post up something and whatnot. So very simple, quick, and effective is effective. I have seen some people, comment like under like whether it's a modeling agency or specific brand, let's say. Seen some people they would comment, are you open to different heights and stuff? Or, if they have like a height requirement up there. I think even with Height Revolution too, you guys have commented kind of challenging a bit of that mentality or that standard where it's like, okay, why is it like this height requirement and stuff, or, commenting on that. I
Yeah.
did notice like that definitely does have a bit of a change. Like a change in regards to like ever since I've been seeing those comments happening, especially like with you guys with Height Revolution and stuff, like I have noticed like after the fact, people like pretty much modeling agencies or brands have posted up stuff where they would say like we're open to all heights, or we're open to all heights and sizes and stuff. So that definitely made a shift, definitely in regards to how they're presenting it, but I still think there's still that issue of like, they can still say that, but not book a petite model or, not actually go through with it.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I could agree that I feel like we have inspired people to kind of comment what they feel, right? So there was
Yeah.
actually one post, I reposted it, and the amount of petite individuals that were commenting on this post, I was like, go us, honestly. Look at us.
Yeah, yeah.
There are so many instances that this happens. And I personally commented on, I think it's Shador models. Apparently, they're meant to be inclusive, this, that, and the other thing. And then they posted something, and I was like, but wait a second, you're meant to be an inclusive agency. And I commented, you're an inclusive agency. Why have you written this? Don't say you're inclusive, and don't
Yeah.
ride that kind of coattail of saying that this is who you are. They're doing so many stipulations with height then on a post that I was like, come on now, you're meant to be an inclusive agency. You so-called represent petite models. That's offensive. Like that's actually offensive. So either you are or you're not. It's one or the other. You can't be both.
It's also very telling for that company too. If they do stuff like that, it's clearly they're more focused like on image, like the image of their company and stuff, and not actually making actual change. That's also another interesting thing to look at too.
Definitely. And I think when we comment against that to say, hey, this is not adding up, it's actually it's helpful for that company, to be honest. We're doing
it is. Yeah.
Either you are or you aren't. Like I said, you can't be both. And let's not try to kind of write that narrative that that's not true. Like if that's not actually who you are, don't say that. Right. So it's powerful for us to kind of stand up against that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I think definitely when we kind of challenge things that we see, I think that's a great thing. And I think that's, really helpful in our movement. Definitely. What are your goals for the future of petite modeling representation? So what would you like to do with the Not So Petite movement? What's your next kind of moves?
So ideally with the Not So Petite movement, I definitely want to go more into partnerships with other movements or, companies and stuff that are in alignment pretty much with similar values and goals and missions, to see if there's a way where we can really get petite models in, whether that's through like an act or a law, or just getting it out there enough where it's like the change actually happens. So yeah, looking forward to like definitely having more partnerships and collaborations with people who are in alignment with our mission, values, and core beliefs and stuff. Also, in regards to like content and stuff, I still want to keep showcasing petite models that are getting work currently, showcasing them, whether it's like through photographs or images of what they've done, or even doing like, I want to do like mini, I don't want to say interviews, it's like mini snippets or mini clips of like, let's say like just one question or one thing that I want to highlight with that person, and then like their response to it. Another thing, which I've been thinking about for quite some time, and it's weird because I've been in the works with it, then I had a pause with it, and it's been back and forth thing with it where I kind of wanted to create like a documentary of this, where like a fashion documentary pretty much, where really highlighting like petite models and like what's actually going on in the industry in that regard and stuff. Like I have the idea fleshed out and I kind of have some stuff written down, but I haven't had the necessary resources to bring that project to life fully. Hopefully that's down the line in the future.
That sounds lovely. I think that also we kind of had like a little similar kind of documentary kind of thought in mind, because I think it is so interesting to also see the behind the scenes of like what do we actually do? What do we actually go through? Which I think is so fascinating. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that you've entered this movement as well. And we're also supportive of each other. So I want to shift gears a little bit. We've gone through so much with modeling, which has been so interesting to hear your views as well. But something that I'd also love to touch on, because it does have to do with the industry, you offer styling services as well. It's kind of like that double life in the industry, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's like being in front of the camera and then being behind the camera, pretty
Right,
much.
right, definitely, yeah. So let's kind of dive into that a little bit, but something that I really wanted to make note of, because I go to fashion school, you went to fashion school as well.
Yeah,
So something that you mentioned on your website is that it is a hot topic at the moment. It's sustainability, because it is so important, right? So
yeah,
over the past few years, I would say sustainability has been such a buzzword, but I do feel like people also don't know what it means as well, that
yeah,
aren't in the industry. There's been a lot of greenwashing, obviously. So
yeah.
I love when I find someone who actually understands what sustainability is and is able to share what kind of what you feel with it, because it is so important. We have one earth. There's no
Yeah.
planet, and the industry is incredibly wasteful. So when I actually find someone else who has these sustainability pillars, I love it, and I kind of want to deep dive into that, because yeah, I think so many people know what it is, what the word is, but they don't actually even know what it means.
Or it got like mudded through a bit with
Right.
like companies just doing it for image and as opposed to actually,
Exactly.
doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. Or a company kind of doing one thing and saying that they're sustainable, but in actuality,
Yeah.
being sustainable, I mean, it's nearly impossible to be 100% sustainable. That's the truth. It's
Well, at
really,
this point in time, at least. But yeah.
but companies pushing one aspect that they're sustainable and the rest they're not. And they're saying, I'm a sustainable company. It's like, no, you do one thing well, that's great. How can we do these other 10 things well as well to be sustainable? But something that you mentioned that I really loved. You said, word for word, that you're trying to help people develop a more conscious relationship with fashion in order to decrease post-consumer waste. So I think it's so powerful, more conscious relationship with fashion. That I love. So
Yeah.
very quickly before we jump into styling, I wanted to ask, what does sustainability necessarily mean to you?
Sustainability means to me pretty much having daily practices, whether that's through a business, your daily life, family, educational system, etc., that benefits the collective in a way that's regenerative.
Yeah.
So, what I mean by that is everyday contributing in a way that not only decreases the negative impacts that are currently happening to the planet, but contributes in a manner, let's say, for a business that has a more positive impact on the planet. Not only focusing on decreasing the negativity that's going on, as humans that we're co-creating, sadly, with Mother Earth and stuff, but actually doing more than what's going on with the negative, if that makes sense. So let's say the negativity is like at a level of like, let's say 40%, like we're impacting Earth at a 40% negativity, let's say. Then let's say you take action, you do stuff, let's say at 80% positivity, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're kind of co-creating more of a habitable, more better living situation collectively, ultimately for everyone.
Definitely. No, I agree. I think it is such a tricky concept, because up until these past few years, no one considered it, right? Especially,
Yeah.
I would say maybe in like 2015, since 2017, it just wasn't a
Yeah.
thing, right? We
Pretty
didn't
much, yeah.
actually become really like a buzzword, especially in fashion school. If you go to fashion school, you will speak of sustainability all the time, which is a great thing, but also
Yeah.
at the same time, there's not a lot of understanding behind it, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the fashion industry. That's one of the most wasteful industries in the world. I think there's so much that could be done, and there's already so many positive things that are happening.
Oh,
And
of
just
course. Yeah.
with, I loved the conscious relationship with fashion. I think that's such an amazing thing to like. That is great. That's lovely because
Yeah.
I think, especially in this day and age, people are just so used to overconsumption. We have haul
Yeah.
videos, and it's like
Yeah.
keep wanting more and more and more. It's like, when does it come to a point where we can create a beautiful capsule collection? Just like, this
Yeah.
is exactly what you're helping people do. How can you
Yeah.
do that? And how can you wear that shirt 20 different times? How do you think others can implement changes in their business model to become more sustainable?
I'm going to talk about this more in the sense of like styling because I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily in the apparel or accessories industry with this, but in regards to styling, they can start discussing more about like actual sustainable brands and stuff, or actual, or I guess like kind of what I'm doing now, where it's like, well, I'm about to do actually. I haven't had this service just yet. I'm in the works of it. Pretty much like educating individuals, like how they can create an enduring wardrobe capsule ultimately. And there's many ways that you can go about that. Like one way that I'm doing it in is like color analysis, well, seasonal color analysis, which I know is a big thing in London, actually. A lot of stylists in
See,
London are
I
doing
bought
it.
one. Yeah. Definitely.
And it's actually, it's being more spoken about in London so far than here in New York that I've seen so far. Seasonal color analysis has been brought up into consciousness a little bit more. So pretty much a stylist looks at an individual's features. So their eye color, hair color, skin tone, as in like overtone and undertone and stuff. And pretty much they base this off of a system where it's like understanding the chroma of that person, you know, what their undertone is, whether it's cool tone, whether it's warm tone, or the tonality of that person too. So whether they're muted in appearance or more contrastive, just a whole system where you can figure out what subseason this individual belongs to, and each season has their own curated color palettes. So these colors are gonna naturally enhance your features and naturally enhance your beauty ultimately. A lot of the times when someone goes shopping for garments or clothing, you know, they don't necessarily like the garment anymore. They feel like you know, they're hiding behind the garment and stuff. That's mainly like a color palette issue, because if you're wearing your colors, it's always going to make yourself like pop a lot more, and it's also like in subtle ways too. So I feel like educating individuals on like what color palette enhances their features, it's gonna benefit them in the long run, because they're more likely to hold on to those garments that are within that color palette range, because ultimately it's going to naturally enhance them, and that's ultimately what someone wants when they purchase a garment or purchase clothing, to enhance what they have naturally. Also, how it's going to help them in the long run too is that in regards to mixing and matching and, you know, utilizing garments over again, when you're using everything within your color palette, you can pretty much mix and match anything and everything's going to look good. So it makes it much more easier to mix and match garments and actually reuse garments more often, as opposed to like, oh, well, I can't match this with this, so I had to purchase, you know, these black shoes, or, you know, I had to purchase another thing because this is not matching well. When you actually understand like what colors enhance you, everything just seamlessly comes together. You're less likely to be like, oh, well, this doesn't match, so I have to purchase this thing, or, you know, you're more likely to actually wear them more.
So I do fashion marketing and consumer behavior. So from like a consumer behavior kind of standpoint, I also think an issue is that obviously with so many trends that we have going on, social media, you
Yeah.
tend to buy things that you actually don't even like. But
Yes.
so many people have it. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
been doing
I've
this.
been a victim of it, honestly.
I think
I
everyone's
think we
been.
all been.
But I think stepping away from it and just realizing that your own personal style and what looks good on you and what you feel confident in, not necessarily going to be trending, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've kind of stopped myself with buying things that, because obviously we've all been victim to it. I've been victim to it, but I
Yeah.
really stopped. I'm like, if I like this in 3 more months' time, then I'll make that purchase. But I'm not just going to purchase this item because it's going viral at the moment. That's how I
Yeah.
feel. Because honestly, so many times, 9 times out of 10, I don't even end up wearing that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
In such a world where overconsumption is kind of glamorized, or like not wearing the same thing twice, I think that's crazy. That's
Yeah. No, literally, yeah.
I don't know who doesn't wear the same, like I have things that I absolutely love. I'm like, I'm wearing this, I'm washing it, I'm wearing it, I'm washing it, like
Yeah. Yeah, literally, yeah, yeah. Or like I even have stuff that I've had for like 5+ years literally in my closet that I still wear like current day. I mean, of course, like I revamp it up a bit.
Yeah.
Whether that's through like throwing like embellishments
Um,
on it and stuff, or because I have a fashion design background, so sometimes I'll tweak it a bit.
yeah, I think we do need to kind of normalize that as well, that it's not a bad thing to wear an outfit many times. Like
Yeah.
it's really not, that's not bad at all. If anything, you're really honestly helping the plan out, I would say, not buying something, discarding it. And another thing that I want to touch on, I know this doesn't have to do with styling, but it has to do with kind of just clothing in general. A lot of
Mm.
people just throw their clothes in the garbage.
I heard people did that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, this is
But
so
not
crazy.
only is it bad for the environment, there's
Yeah,
someone out there that will love that garment.
exactly.
So if anyone's listening to this, and obviously this isn't something that's like a known fact, but I do feel like it needs to be pushed. Please don't throw your garments in the garbage. Yeah, I thought that was really important just to kind of state as well. But someone will, yeah, will love that outfit. So just make sure you're donating your clothes.
I wanted to add on to this too. There's actually a quote that I saw like literally just yesterday. It was pretty much saying that fashion you can buy, but style you possess.
Yeah.
And I love that quote because it's so true. Because ultimately, I mean, style is honestly a personal journey in itself. Because in order to know what your style is, you really have to understand who you are as a person, honestly. Like, style is ultimately an expression of who you are, of yourself. Understanding, like, what your style is and, like, who you are as a person ultimately is going to make your style timeless, to be honest. And also makes it more elegant. It makes it more luxurious in the sense of, like, the fact that it's more personalized to you. It's more tailored to you. So, yeah, like, understanding your style is, like, super important, too, because also, like, that's gonna decrease like you buying on unnecessary things too, because once you actually really like lock in if that makes sense to your lifestyle, and now okay, these are the pieces that I really want like in my wardrobe capsule, and like I know not to purchase this pretty much, or I know not to even look at this or bother with this.
I do agree with that. And styling also could really, like, it just elevates any look. It takes
Oh, of
something
course, yeah.
one to the next. I remember in fashion school, I really learned the art of layering, which
Yeah.
honestly groundbreaking when you know
Yes.
how.
Yeah.
I remember there was this, I did actually an interview with, his name's Max. He
Mhm.
fashion designer. He's phenomenal. And I remember I kind of learned layering from him because he does it so well in his sketches and things that he's creating. And I was like, wow, he actually, you can see through these sketches how you can take an outfit from this to this through layering. So I like to throw that in. I'm sure obviously you know all about that and you help your clients
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, layering is really a game changer. So if you're feeling a bit like oh about your outfit, maybe try some layering techniques. I think that that's always a way to spruce it up a bit and change something that you have in your closet that's kind of a staple and making it something else without having to buy 5 pieces to do so, if that makes sense. How did you even begin your styling services? How could someone that's watching this video right now go down this career path as well?
I began my styling services was back in 2022 officially. When I had started my styling services, it was honestly strictly just for the fashion industry. I was only offering styling for like models mainly at the time since I was still developing my portfolio. There was kind of this sense that I needed to focus on the fashion industry first to develop a name for myself in order to expand to the masses ultimately, to be honest. As of recent, I just made that complete shift to more of like holistic styling. Modeling did kind of help with styling because ultimately, I mean, I modeled first before I did fashion styling. I don't know if that was mentioned earlier or not. Being within the modeling industry, having the connections that I had with photographers, and other industry professionals, it kind of made it more easier to develop my portfolio for styling because I already had those connections. I had those networks, sort of say. So I was working with photographers to like develop my portfolio and stuff with styling, and also a lot of the work that I was getting earlier on with styling was through the people that I knew. So a photographer would vouch for me pretty much, saying like, hey, I know a stylist I can bring on board for this project, this is her work, etc. Or it was just like direct jobs where it's just like I think there was a couple of advertisement work that I did for Adorama and Canon's new camera that came out at the time. This was like 2 years ago, where I knew the videographer through a photographer that I worked with, and he remembered me through working with that photographer, so he reached out to me to style for that. I would say I was very lucky in that sense because of the connections that I had. It was smoother to transition with fashion styling and actually getting that kickstarted and stuff. And also, you know, working with everyone, having these images and stuff also kickstarted my website because I was able to utilize that like on my website and stuff. Pretty much everything that you see on my website is stuff that I styled, quite literally, except for I think just 2 videos that I have under styling services. That's just more like stock videos right now.
I definitely think it's important to have someone to vouch for you, because obviously this industry is networking at the end of the day as well.
Yeah.
So people that you know will suggest you, people that you know, you'll suggest them. And I also think for a stylist that maybe are aspiring, just to make it a little bit more clear as well, brands also need stylists. I think maybe
Yes.
there's a misconception with that. Maybe people think because they're like a fashion brand, they don't need stylists. But in actuality, they do, because stylists actually help put together the full kind of outfits. The brands will obviously supply the garment that they've
Yeah.
created wear, but the stylist, I don't know if you want to pick it up from here, kind of what you would do from there.
Yeah, it's really important to like recognize that. I know it's something that you don't really think about because stylists are kind of more behind the camera. They're not necessarily being, I guess, publicized, if that makes sense. Yeah, so a lot of brands do need stylists. Like that's like whether it's like lookbooks, e-commerce stuff, that's kind of more the advertising marketing realm of things where like they do need a stylist for that. Or even like brand shoots, to be honest, like whether it's like for their website or let's say like a campaign coming up or like a new product coming up and stuff, like they definitely do need stylists. Aspiring stylists, to get more into that, I would definitely say, I mean, of course, research and experiment, honestly. And why I say research, like really understand like what the different styles are. Also understanding like what you bring to the table too, because every stylist is very different. In technicality, I can style whatever style there is, but personally, I feel like the style, like what I bring to the table is more of like a timeless elegance to the project, and that's what I kind of want to fixate on or what I want to focus on, because that's kind of where I excel at more so. So understanding what your identity is as a stylist and understanding like what you bring to the table, of course, because that's also going to make you stand out more, and also that's going to make you more passionate about your work, honestly, when you understand like why you're doing this, like why, you know, what you're passionate about. Yeah, not be afraid to experiment, because honestly, stuff that I've come up with within styling just happened just out of pure experimentation where I was like, huh, I wonder how this will look against this. And like sometimes it's like an absolutely no, and you're just like, absolutely not. That looks terrible. It looks horrendous. But other times you're like, okay, I get, like, I'm sort of feeling this a bit, but there's something missing. And then you kind of play around with it. Or sometimes you're just like, this is amazing. Like, holy shit.
When you get like a brief from a brand, do they give you money to spend? Or are you taking it out of your own select looks for styling? Do you source? How does it even work really?
For brand, most of the times I pull the garments from a showroom. It's a bit tricky because there are some designers that don't want their garments being utilized for another brand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's a bit tricky in that sense, but I have found like some designers that were open like to having their garments like, you know, part of the advertisement or campaign or whatever it's going on. So normally I would source it from either a showroom or sometimes, I mean, if there is a budget, I'm sourcing the garments through normal stores or normal, like directly from the brand, like purchasing that, like those garments and stuff. I've even done like, I think sometime, I think it was much earlier on, like I think I put everything like on a credit card and then like returned everything back
Right.
type of deal. And you know,
That is quite
every
common.
stylist has that story.
Yeah, no, it is quite common that you leave tags on things, or like on shoes at shoots, you put like tape on the bottom of the shoes.
Yeah.
So you can return them. I think that's quite common. Yeah, I think it's just interesting to kind of break it down a little bit for people that like they like styling, they like putting things together, like for maybe friends or something. They don't know how it kind of applies in like real life settings. So I think into my understanding, so I've not done styling before, but from seeing it from like a modeling perspective, I think basically you get the brief, you know what kind of goes on, then either you source it or maybe you have things kind of in your archive that you just like bring with you, like maybe accessories would be something, or like shoes or something like that. You bring it.
Yeah, I have what I have. Like I have this thing where it's like the styling closet almost. It's a small closet for now. Hopefully it's expanding.
That's amazing. So that's how that works, I guess, for anyone who doesn't really know. My last question, we're getting to the end. So this is something that I love to kind of close with on Diaries of a Creative, because I think it's quite nice to look back on this in 5 years' time to see what we thought was going to happen in 5 years. Did it actually happen? Or Where are you now? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
So interesting. That question's been coming up for me a lot lately, and it's a very interesting question because I did a 5-year plan a while back. This was like fresh out of high school, I believe. It did not go the way I thought it wanted to, but it's some of the stuff has happened, just not within the 5 years. So I do have to acknowledge the fact that it has happened, just not within the 5 years. It took a little bit longer, or it happened in a way that was not the way I envisioned it, but it came out better, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so with 5-year plan questions, I'm always like half and half on it because I'm just like, I don't like,
It's big. It's definitely, and
yeah,
also we're changing throughout
yeah,
the months, the days, so years. It's even like maybe
yeah, yeah,
maybe I'm in a completely different, maybe in 5 years I'm like, I don't know, doing something else. It's so hard to say, but it is so
yeah.
interesting as well.
Also, it's like, because I'm thinking like 5 years from now, I'm like definitely in my 30s. It's showing my age a bit now, but
Still so
uh,
young.
a little bit into my 30s, not further into, like close to mid 30s at that time. I mean, I know I'm gonna be a different person then in a good sense, like because I am actively working on myself and actually actively growing and stuff. In regards to career wise, I hopefully by then I would have done some work for a high-end brand specifically that's in alignment with, what I want to bring into this world. Ideally, it would be really cool if like a high-end brand actually turns like full on sustainable. Like it would actually be kind of cool if Chanel could do that, to be honest, because
And they
I
have
feel like
to.
that is within their brand DNA a bit, where like they started off as a very breaking the barriers type of brand. I don't know if you've known the history of like Chanel. They redefined like the ideology of like beauty for like women when they first came out. And I think it'll be a cool business move, if Chanel is listening to this, if they really go like more sustainable.
They have the budget to do it. They
Oh,
could
of
do
course. Yeah,
it. So
yeah.
I think they would be a trailblazer if one, high-end fashion house did that. The others
Yeah.
would follow suit.
It would completely change the industry because like honestly, I mean they do have power within the industry. Like that is something we have to acknowledge. So for them to like let's say do something like that, it'll be so revolutionary. I definitely do want to work for Chanel. That's a definite thing. Hopefully by then I would have worked with them to some sort of capacity. I do see myself like have built styling company. I can really make an impact on developing more of that conscious fashion, more of that relationship with fashion in a sense where it's actually creating that change. Hopefully having that much more established, having that be a bigger thing, if that makes sense.
I think really educating people that aren't in the industry, because I would assume that from like a holistic standpoint, maybe people, I don't know who your customer is for styling per se, but maybe it is just someone who's working a 9 to 5 and they just want to
Yeah.
elevate their style. It could be,
Yeah.
someone who they just want to completely transform their wardrobe and they don't really know how to. They're not necessarily interested in fashion, but they're interested at wearing something that makes them feel good, but they just need someone to help them with that. So your
Yeah.
client could really be anyone. It doesn't even
Yeah.
need to be someone in the industry, like you were saying before. So giving people that education that aren't maybe so acclimated to sustainability is really interesting. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. That's coming soon.
Oh,
We're in the works of it.
so much for coming on today. It's lovely to hear what you have in the works for 5 years, and we can't wait to see you accomplish them.
Thank you. It was lovely speaking with you, honestly. It's been so long.